Hey folks, your
Absolute Packer podcast initiating in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello out there in Packer Nation, and welcome to another edition of the Absolute Packer podcast, which I am going to title "And Then There Were Three," which is a slight little teaser there.
And then there were three, take two.
Yes, we won't get into that, sir. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Now, we had a couple minor little technical glitches, but we're good there. It's April 6th, and there's about 10 inches of snow on the ground in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's about 25 degrees.
We're all suffering from the second winter flu. It's officially second winter right now, and everybody I know is not feeling well.
Yeah, and I normally don't complain about cold weather because when you're in Wisconsin, I mean, it's Wisconsin, but I am bitching about it. I'm not going to lie. So
it's April.
No shit. No doubt. All right. So anyway, without further ado, I have a little surprise for everybody. We have a new contributor to the Absolute Packer podcast. His name is Jeremy Hautala, and he lives in Green Bay. Jeremy, how you doing?
Fantastic, guys.
Excellente.
I'm going to put in some little fans cheering right after that. How's that sound?
Oh, nice. It's almost like the stock laugh track in like the sitcom.
No, it's not going to be stock. I'm going to get actual people laughing, and they're going to be cheering and just super pumped.
Okay, I wasn't aware that we were budgeting for that. So
nope, or it's going to happen. I'm going to go hire people on the street. I'm going to. You gave me your credit card. I'm going to bill it to you. It's all good. Everything's fine.
Oh God. It's that damn Cambridge Analytica credit card. I got myself. Okay, this thing's going off the rails. Back on. So I want to introduce Jeremy Hautala. How you doing? And if you could kind of go over just a little bit about you to introduce yourself to some of the listeners.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for having me on, you guys. And my background, I'm a football geek, and I'm one of those guys that waits for NFL Network to play NFL Replay on Sunday in the off season, and it's basically where they play these games from the past season. And I just watch them like a coach and a scout. Like, I seriously psychoanalyze everything. I watch how defenses and offenses are lining up and playing each other, and that's just me. That's the inner geek in me. But I have a buddy here in town who coached for a high school football team, and I did some scouting for him as well on future opponents, just to kind of give him a little heads up on what he was looking forward to in his upcoming opponents. So I'm one of those guys that just loves watching and analyzing, and I wish I could be like a scout or GM. So, I think that's what our goal was in the end, wasn't it? Is that we were going to be like a GM team?
I don't want you to leave because we just got you.
No.
Now, if you're applying for other jobs, I want to reconsider this whole deal.
Yeah, we'll allow lateral moves, but anything up, I don't think we're gonna be.
This is up. This is up.
Yeah, the floor is very low with us. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's excellent. I'll say that I first approached Jeremy and gave the idea to Elliot when I noticed that Jeremy interacts with a lot of our posts and discussions that we have on Facebook, and he's obviously got really good takes. And one thing that really appealed to me was that he has a lot of positive spins on things. I tend to be quite the negative Nancy. And so it's part of me got to think this is a good cop, bad cop type of thing that could help there. And I know that he's well-versed in, scheme and some of those deeper X's and O's types things. So that'll definitely help. I can already tell, more than me. I kind of skim the surface. I can't identify everything. I don't have the NFL Network. I don't even have cable, to be honest with you. So, I have to hold up the tinfoil hat to watch the game on local TV and get close with the antenna.
I was cool with all this until you said that there's going to be cops involved. Now I'm out. No cops. I don't care if they're good cops, bad cops. No cops. I'm out. I'm done.
Okay.
And then there were two.
Yeah, really. All Packer podcasts matter. I don't know. I'm trying to think of some hashtag I could go with that.
All right, let's get into your amazing Google Doc. Let's go through this. I've been chomping at the bit for all this.
Yeah. So as listeners know, and this will be good for Jeremy too, just to get through, how we normally do stuff here is, I usually divide things up into three categories. And, if we can, being in the off season, there can be, not as much content to go over, but X's and O's stuff that talks about, what's on the football field, Green Bay Packer organizational type stuff, how they get back to the community, and then like league trends and things of that nature. So we always like to start off with the X's and O's. So we'll hop right into that. And basically, since it's the off season and the free agency has started, I figure we'll get right into that. I have here the first item, the Packers free agency gains, starting with number 1, Jimmy Graham, which I don't know about you guys. I did not see that coming. And I think it's a good signing. I'm not sure, if it's a completely great, and it's only because, he's a couple years older when he first hit the free agent market coming out of when he left New Orleans to go to Seattle, and he's been banged up a little bit. But I will say this, given the tight ends that were on the roster, I might have been a better free agent acquisition signing versus what they had. So I'm pleasantly surprised that they got a big weapon,
probably money-wise,
that could hopefully go down the seam in the middle there for Rodgers.
Money-wise, you're a lot cheaper.
What's that? Yeah, no doubt. Because what he got, was it 3 years, 30 million?
And a lot of money. But I'll be honest with you guys,
you get what you pay for.
Right.
You get what you pay for.
It's
an investment.
I had a little inside knowledge. Yep. I heard from other people that his first free agent visit was to Titletown. He really wanted to come here. He wanted to end his career with Aaron Rodgers. And I wasn't like promising it was going to happen, but I was pretty sure it was going to happen. I just didn't expect $30 million for pretty much a guaranteed 2-year contract, $22 million, but a 3-year 30. I was really surprised at the numbers on that aspect.
Sure. Yeah, and with free agency, you typically this is where the big money comes out. I don't know if he was he a day one signing? He may have been a day one or a day two. Day one, okay. And the day one signings are usually, I don't want to call it super ridiculous money, but it's the higher end contracts. And free agency, right, you're paying basically for past performance, not future. It's typically how that stuff works, especially with the day one guys. So, I wouldn't say it was a crazy amount of money, but it was a good chunk of money. And I want to say he's 31, so he's not the youngest guy. But like I said, I mean, the tight ends they had, this is a welcome addition. So, I'm trying to think of, in the past couple of years, who have they had where they can throw down the middle of the seam with an athletic tight end? They haven't had anybody. They had Richard Rodgers, who, get to in some of the free agency losses. But, last year, the tight ends they signed, that went over really well, didn't it, guys? Pretty much. One guy's name was No, the other guy's name was Comment. No, it was, we know that Martellus Bennett was no comment. That's about all I can say. And then Lance Kendricks, he was a huge disappointment too. I don't know what the heck, how they were going to try and get him integrated in the offense, but I digress. You'd have to think that Jimmy Graham is the real deal. Bennett was, absolutely, supposedly still pretty good, but Jimmy Graham is even better than him in his prime. So that's good there. Number 2, Muhammad Wilkerson. I don't know a whole lot about this guy. The one thing I do know, I know he plays on the defensive line, which is good to know his position, and that he used to play in pet and coach defense. Outside of that, I don't. It sounds like he may be, he's a pretty good player, but he's not like some, going to be some stud. I don't know how much you may know, Elliot,
I think they
or Jeremy, about
other
tidbits with him.
Was his get off the ball is one of the quickest in the league. I mean, his first step is phenomenal, and I think that's why the last 2 years, I think his attitude, obviously got him kicked out of New York, and he just did not try as well. And the effort was not there. But if you watch plays from 2014 when they played Pittsburgh, and I mean, he was getting off the ball so quick that he was knocking guys off the ball, and it was phenomenal. And I hope that's who we get. I hope that we get that guy that's, fiery and hungry and willing to do whatever it takes. And I truly hope that that's what we get. And I think we are going to get that because he's motivated. I mean, he's got a 1-year contract, and then he doesn't know what else is coming.
Yeah.
They were predominantly a 3-4.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, he played. Did he play a 4-3 or 3-4 in the Jets? I can't remember what scheme they had.
Defensive line earlier on, like in the 2012-13 era. They had 4 down linemen that they could play pretty much anywhere. So they were predominantly a 3-4, but they kind of used that fancy scheme that Capers used to use, where they had 4 down linemen.
And I imagine they want him to do some pass rush, but like anything, he's got to stop the run too. But do they want him to be primarily a pass rusher and then kind of help the run here, or is it 50-50? That's the thing I don't quite know, because we haven't really seen Ted's defense what it's going to be for the Packers
so that
yet.
4 linebackers who are athletic can make plays on the ball. Here, it seems like the talent that's kind of garnered here. I mean, these aren't big guys. Clark's 330, Daniels is 305, 310, 315 on a good day, and Wilkerson's 315. So these aren't guys that just are space eaters. They're athletic
they are kind of small,
and they're strong. They're bulls. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires. But I mean, you can't block those guys one-on-one all the time. One of those guys are going to get free.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, obviously Mike Daniels was a force, but he gets double teamed on basically every play. And then I would say even last year, Kenny Clark came on better than Daniels, but Daniels was nicked up too. So, I mean, I think that was a solid signing. I can't remember. The money wasn't too bad. And like you said, it's kind of a 1-year prove it deal. So it's pretty good. Number 3, we've heard this name before. He's just a little bit older now. His name is Tramon Williams, cornerback. I think he played for, was it Arizona last year? Yes, I believe. And he's 35, so he's getting up there. But I'll say this. I've watched a little bit of film of him when he was playing in Arizona last year, and he played really well. I mean, I would say he played, above average, which given his age and where he's at, that's pretty darn good. You tend to lose a step, and if you lose a step as a cornerback, that can be trouble. But he's just so fundamentally sound. I think, I don't know if they think he's going to be a starting cornerback. That's the only thing that worries me. It's like he's good, but the Packers could use anybody at cornerback right now, for Pete's sake. I mean, they jettisoned their best cornerback. They traded him to the Browns at Demarius Randall. We'll get to that one too. But
to get back to the free agency,
I would say that's a positive signing, but it's just one, and they need more before they even get to the draft.
Kyle Fullers, they were going after the Tremaine Johnsons, and yeah, it was, and I think they did it more so as gameship, to try to get Chicago to pay $20 million, because
that was a crazy move.
That's not deep
Kyle
with cash.
Fuller
We
thing.
have it was somewhere between 300 and 400 million sitting in the bank somewhere. So a signing bonus to us is not a big deal. Where to Chicago, I was just thinking something, But we were approaching free agents out there, the top tier ones, like I mentioned, the Tremaine Johnsons, and I heard there was a rumor about Malcolm Butler, but I think that was confirmed there wasn't. But they were willing to get in that ring, but the money was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Every year, it's kind of like you see something like, oh my God, look what so-and-so got. Oh my God. And part of that, the cap's obviously, it's been rising a lot over the past few years. But this isn't Ted's Packers anymore. That's for darn sure.
It's always closed.
Yeah. I mean, Ted apparently still has an office down the hall. I don't know what he's doing in there, but hopefully, Gutekunst locks the door when he's going out. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, really. Nice. Okay, so I think
those are really
I want to make sure I
solid.
didn't miss anybody there. I know we haven't signed a ton, but there's 3 there. We got 1 on offense, 2 on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the free agent signings I went, what the hell are they doing? Which, I mean, if that's the way you gauge it, I guess it's one way to look at it. But, the Graham one, I think, will definitely help. And Wilkerson, I should be motivated. And Tramon, he's just savvy as hell. I mean, I love Tramon. So I agree with you. I think there's really no downside. And there wasn't, outside of Graham, there's some money there in terms of exposure, but not too bad. So now onto the free agency losses. That one of the all-time favorites actually had to be let go, and it was more or less a salary dump. He was I'm talking, of course, about Jeff Janis. No, I'm just kidding. Although he was he was let go. I had to throw that in there, right? Jordy Nelson. So, I think that was the right move. I can't remember exactly how much money he was due, but the last half of the season in 2017, God, did he look slow? And you could say, did he lose a step? I think he did. Was it the product of having balls thrown to you from Brett Hundley? I'm sure it was. But I think it's also a product of, Aaron Rodgers makes these guys. Look at the other guys who have left and done nothing. You got the James Joneses and the Greg Jennings. It's there's definitely a part where, I think Aaron Rodgers made Jordy Nelson, but, I think Jordy Nelson's still a solid player, or, was in his prime. The crazy thing about it to me was apparently they gave him some asinine lowball offer where it was like $100,000 over the league veteran minimum, which I think it was like $1 million. Now to us, that's obviously a lot of money, but to these guys,
I don't know. I mean,
I tend to look at that. If that's true,
numbers,
I don't know why they just didn't
we didn't have the season
not a good look
to back that all up. Okay, well, you go to him, you're like, hey, the fans love you. We should cut you. Mm-hmm. We know we should cut you. We can all come out good. Here's our starting offer.
Yeah, I guess it could be somewhat of a negotiating place to start. And, kind of segueing into the next thing. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I was stunned with the money that the Raiders gave him. So he signed, I think it was a 3-year deal. And, he's got ties to Reggie McKenzie, who's a GM in Oakland, obviously was a scout. And for all we know, he might have scouted Jordy Nelson at Kansas State when he was when McKenzie was with the Packers. So, but he got, what's that? $10 million guaranteed. And I mean, it was big money. So good for Jordy. But, I'll say this though, kind of tongue in cheek, but the last thing you want is, with the recent players that we've let go for other contracts and they've gone on elsewhere, it probably wouldn't surprise me if Jordy Nelson leads the league in touchdowns and has 1,000 yards. No, I'm just kidding. I really would be stunned if he's a number one in, Oakland, and I could see him being,
and good for him. That's great. But I mean,
if he goes gangbusters,
good players go to finish their career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
And he's going there. I forgot. I don't want to go on a little tangent here, but John Gruden. What do you guys think of that hire of John Gruden by the Raiders? I think it was incredibly stupid. That guy, everything I'm reading about, everything I'm seeing, he wants to basically he's stuck in 1995.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's since he's not with the Packers, I could give a shit. But at the same time, I'm going,
a punter,
and they paid him $100 million in this huge contract, and he hadn't even been a coach in 10 years.
Where you're just a football player, and that's it. Marquette King was definitely a football player and a very comedic player on the field, and he didn't want that. So I agree with you.
I'll be slight devil's advocate on that. I think because
I think that's going to end up blowing up in their face, is what I'm saying. I think that's going to end up being a bad hire, but whatever.
Yeah, I think they want superstar names, right? It's sort of like when when Brett Favre went to the Jets because they were getting a new stadium.
I forgot some of these things you're like, really?
Vegas, that's what's going on. But sometimes it's off the field stuff.
They don't care.
Not at all. But they don't care.
There's an element to it,
right?
It's a good point. I don't think it's going to work out all that well, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's true. There are some owners out there, I'm sure, that are like, I don't give a shit if we win or not. I want to make sure we got money. So, all right. So now on to the next loss, and this I don't know about you guys. This was an absolutely catastrophic loss. I mean, I was talking in my sleep when I
was he on the Packers?
Jeff Janis is no more. What are we going to do?
Okay. Is that what we call special teams guys now? Is someone, or who was he?
He was. Yeah. I think he was a guy who held the cord on the sideline when McCarthy would walk up and down it or something. No, I mean, yeah, no kidding. And I put in here, I go, aka the People's Champ, and I know that there were so many, I'll say, I don't know if they were fringe fans, but even some other serious ones that felt like it was criminal, that Jeff Janis couldn't get on the field and this, that, or the other. But for all indications, I mean, the guy could only run one route, a vertical, and he played at Saginaw Valley State, I think, Division II. So he was a 7th-round pick. This wasn't like we let some, first-round pick bust go or something like that. But he had speed. But there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of nuance in this offense, and apparently the only thing he could ever get was a go route. So, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. If he doesn't trust you, if he has any inkling or he can't trust you, you're not going to see the field. So, and I mean, what was crazy though, is that somebody put a montage of the Arizona playoff game where he caught, that huge bomb when Rodgers rolled out in the end zone, and then the Hail Mary, right? And it was like, and I mean, that was really cool. That was pretty special. But those were basically just both Hail Mary, just go routes. Those were special.
We're going to need a gunner.
So we have that to look back on, folks. But I don't think we're going to miss him. He didn't get any guaranteed money from the Browns. That was crazy. I mean, yeah, he was a great gunner. That's a very good point. He was a great gunner. I'll give you that. Next guy on the list. He's kind of an enigma to me, and that's Richard Rodgers, the tight end. Way overdrafted. He was drafted, I think, in the 3rd round, and he might have been a 6th or 7th round. Some people didn't even have him getting drafted. I don't know what the hell Ted was thinking there. And I mean, Rodgers, he had good hands, horrific blocker, couldn't break a tackle if a tumbleweed went on the field and hit him, and incredibly slow. So if used properly somewhere, maybe he could be good. But when you go from Jermichael Finley to Richard Rodgers, oh my God. So, I mean, he went to the Eagles, if I recall. So, yeah. But, yeah, no shit, right?
Do you want to know what his 40 time was? And
I mean, again, if he goes out there and he becomes some big weapon, I mean, that's going to be another indictment of McCarthy for not using him the right way. But who the hell knows, Again, he had great hands, but God, was he slow. Linemen. Man, the guy looked like he looked like he had cinder blocks in his feet. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it a 4? I think it was like a 4.9. Pretty slow. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. And he was drafted in the 3rd. Well, whatever. I mean, I wish him well, but I think he can. I don't want to say he can be replaced easily, but I don't think it's going to be anything catastrophic by any means. They need to draft, to your point, Jeremy, earlier, that they need to draft some tight ends just to get some depth, because having Graham is great, but who do they got behind him? All right, and then on to our favorite quagmire of a player. I don't know how else to put this guy. Demarius Randall. So he was traded, as you guys know, to the Browns for DeShone Kizer. And I like to call Demarius Randall the tallest midget. Not trying to offend anybody, but on a team with really bad cornerback play, he was the best of the worst, if you will. But there's a reason for that. Some things came out about Randall, and the big thing was, and this came out, I want to say it was about a week ago or so. I have a link here in the notes. He played safety in college at Arizona State, and the Packers, they drafted him for the wrong position. They had drafted him, and they wanted to play him at safety, but they thought they could make him a corner. So he was basically a square peg in the round hole from day one.
Make into something that they weren't. I mean, that list is light.
That's a great question, because maybe Ted Thompson wants,
safety in college.
I don't know.
Played the ball really well. Made a lot
I don't even read that. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
And they thought that could translate to the NFL. He was somewhere in the 4 or 5s as far as his 40 time went. Not real slow, but he wasn't real fast. But like you said, we had Clinton Dix, we had Morgan Burnett, and we had no defensive backfield because we were going to let Casey Hayward go. I mean,
that's not a cornerback. I mean, that's okay for safety, to your point, but that ain't cornerback. It's not an outside corner. We did not
play him correctly, and we thought that he couldn't play the outside. So then he went to San Diego, played the outside, and became a Pro Bowl player. Go figure.
Oh, yeah, sorry. God. had to bring it up. I'm weeping. Yeah, and obviously we're not talking about Demarius Randall. We're talking about Casey Hayward there. But yeah, I then part of me when you hear things like that, whether it's the Demarius Randall draft, was that? I mean, was it Capers in the room telling Thompson I could make him a corner?
Mm-hmm.
And is that where does Ted Thompson end and begin on that issue of it with Hayward and Demarius Randall? I have no idea, but all I know is they all sucked with that. And you feel bad for the player because it was like he was set up to fail. I would not be surprised if Demarius Randall does well as a safety at all.
Dorsey and
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowl or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a pretty solid safety there. And the Browns said right when they traded for him, they're going to move him to safety right away. That's where some of this kind of came out. So. Yep. Jesus. Yeah. The mind reels. I put a little note there. I don't know. I don't know what else to say there though. So, yeah. So I mean, that's for free agency losses. That's what I got there. Just looking at the roster from a whole after the gains, I'll say the free agency gains and losses. There's still a lot of holes on this team. They got 12 picks to in the draft, which is nice, and they'll be picking, the highest they've been picking in a long time at number 14. But if you go down this list, and what I'm kind of getting at there is, they need more veterans. So they can't go into this again with that Ted Thompson approach where they got a lot of holes. We're going to fill them with draft picks, first year players. So I don't know if they're going to. The pickings are slim with what's left of free agency on offense and defense and just whatever. Jordan but they got to sign some more guys. They got holes everywhere still. So.
1 year, I didn't hear the financials, but
that was who was the? Oh, his name is escaping me.
Yes,
I just lost. The Patriots signed him. He was from was it Buff? Jordan Matthews. Right. That's right. And I mean, was he a Pro Bowler? No, but he was a guy they could probably use. And what did he sign for? Do you know what Matthews signed for money wise? Okay.
Yep.
The reason I asked that was I'm pretty sure he's a slot guy, right? It's one of those things where you could potentially get him cheaper and you'd cut Cobb, because Cobb's making $10 million. I mean, he might be one of the most overpaid players in the league. It's crazy. That was another thing that Ted was horrific at. He never cut an overpaid veteran. That was one of his own guys. He would cut other, the Julius Peppers of the world, the guys like that weren't his homegrown talent, he would. But the Clay Matthews of the world, the Jordy Nelsons of the world, and the guys like that, I mean, it's a business. He would never request a pay cut or, cut a guy who was in glaring need to be cut. Tough decisions, but, first, think about the first thing that Gutekunst does. He comes in, he's like, hey, Ted, I'm your boss now. Jordy, you're out of here. It's interesting. I mean, he flipped that switch pretty good, but you got to make those tough decisions. So it is what it is. Okay, so the next thing here, this is going to be, it could be playing out in the next few days, could be playing out in the next few months, but it's kind of the, what do they call it, the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that is the impending Aaron Rodgers contract extension. As you guys know, and what's been put out on social media and other things, it sounds like Rodgers was definitely waiting for Kirk Cousins to sign, which we talk about the numbers that are out there. Kirk Cousins, who hasn't won a playoff game, and in my opinion, isn't very good. Really is. He got 3 years, $84 million, all guaranteed. I think that might be the first fully guaranteed contract in the NFL. Is that true? Yep. And I mean, again, that's the guy who gets it, Kirk Cousins.
All he's got to do there is not turn the ball over because they have a defense.
And he went to the Vikings. Now, I'll say this. He didn't have a ton of talent in Washington when he was there. But would I be surprised if he does pretty well in Vikings? No. I don't think he's going to light the world on fire, but he's got more talent. He's got a really great defense there. So that seems like a pretty good landing spot. It just happens to be in our freaking division. But ugh.
Nope. I think everybody's going to stop him this year.
That was crazy, wasn't it? Oh my God. I don't know where that came from. No. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, sorry to go down that tangent, but I mean, yeah, that's the thing. Were they exposed, or who the hell knows? Because I mean, then in the Patriots put up, you know, I don't know. That was a weird Super Bowl too, but I digress. So yeah, and then I made a kind of a side note here that, you know, and again, I have no idea how much truth there is to this, but there are rumors and rumblings that the Packers are, you know, they're really trying to get creative with the language of Rodgers' contract, and there may be things put in there where they tie his salary to the percentage of the salary cap, which essentially, you know, would mean that he would continue to be the highest paid player in the league.
He's taking up,
you know,
right
even after
now,
the next guy signs, unless the next guy who signs has put some kind of language in there.
He's taking up
and that hasn't been done before. With the salary cap rising, you know, Rodgers could ostensibly, you know, say he starts out at 30, 35 million, cap rises X percent, he could be making 40 million next year. So, you know. Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, league wide, the quarterback salaries, I think they're just obviously they're getting out of control when you got guys like Kirk Cousins and some of these other guys making money like this. Right. You know, it's like anything, you know, some of these teams, like for instance, the Rams, where I'm kind of going is, you know, the Rams are still sitting on a rookie contract, and the Eagles for that matter, they're with Carson Wentz, who got hurt. Obviously, but you know, the Rams, they're on a spending spree this off. The amount of players they're signing on both sides of the ball, they're going all in. The reason they can go all in is because they got their rookie quarterback, Jared Goff. He's making nothing, you know, and obviously the league's set up with, you know, the salary cap and things like that, the parity structure, which is all fine and dandy. So kind of part of the reason I wanted to have this on here as a discussion point was, you know, and I would never say, no, we can't sign Rodgers, but you know, at what point is the money that great? And, you know, what should Rodgers try to do something where he pulls, you know, a Tom Brady and maybe takes a little bit less? Who knows? You know, part of me, there's a huge part of me saying I don't think that's going to happen at all, because he keeps waiting and waiting to see where these other quarterbacks' contracts fall,
I think that was
which means he wants more. And even within that,
Flacco got the
there's that cynical side to me too with Rodgers. We're going, you know, the past 6 or 7 years, we had a lot of cap room. You didn't surround me with shit. You never used that money, so I'm just going to get whatever money I can, you know, and I can't fault the guy. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
And where have they been? Right. So I think there's a lot of proof in the pudding that these quarterbacks, if they're going to take up, you know, in Cousins' case, $28 million, how do you fill out a team when one guy is taking up 15, 20% of your salary cap?
Mm-hmm. They just had to blow up their whole defense, because of the money numbers there.
Right. Yeah, very true. Good point.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, other teams are faced with a similar situation. And back to the Patriots, you know, it's like Tom Brady does that, but you don't see any other teams with quarterbacks doing that, do you? It's just the Patriots, like the Patriot way, you know? And I mean, obviously the Patriots are a really well-run organization. They got the best coach in the league, but I find it interesting that, you know, he's still the only one who really does that.
Yep.
You know,
yeah. Sure.
Right. At a minimum, I say that could, you know, and that, I should say 90 million guaranteed extension. He's still got 2 years on his contract. That's the other. I don't mean to cut you off there. I should have prefaced real quick that, you know, he's still got 2 years on his contract, and the Packers are doing everything they can to get him an extension because the price is just going to keep going up. But go ahead. Sorry.
Sure.
No, you franchise him. We would own the rights and you franchise him, but he would make obviously a shit ton of money. And you never want to get put in that position, but that's the nuclear option is you franchise. That's what they did with Cousins. They franchised him twice. Now, when you franchise somebody, you have to pay him a shit ton of money. I can't remember what the formula is, but it's like the highest paid player at that position plus X amount of money, because you're not bargaining in good faith with that franchise tag. A lot of times you're just saying, I want to, do this. So you have to pay like a tax on it, No, it doesn't. But I guess part of what I'm going with, with Rodgers is, you would think he'd want to pull a Tom Brady type thing, and maybe take less money and extrapolate that out. But again, the other side of that coin is, and this is where I think the new regime change kind of had to happen, because they knew the extension was pending, and they're going, Ted's not going to do anything to help this guy out.
I think there's a balance, right?
Maybe we can,
he might not push
have him
more than that,
and convince him by making these changes to take a little bit less money, but we're actually going to surround him with more talent and spend in free agency,
I know.
Maybe. It's a thought.
But I think that's coming to an end, right? Who else is in the conversation?
Well, I mean, you say going right, but have you seen Tom Brady's salary? He's nothing compared to what he should be. I mean, he's so low.
Yeah. I'm not seeing a plan B.
I hear you, but at the same time, I'm going. I mean, Tom Brady's great, and I think Rodgers is obviously better than him, but
extremely,
that son of a bitch went to
with
8 Super
Bowls. Good extension.
It worked.
To be fair, he doesn't have to pillage the organization.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess I'm just optimistic.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think structuring it to the
I don't know what that I don't know
would be.
I don't know what that number is going to be,
say,
but my gut tells me he's going to want, I think it's
higher.
going to be 35 minimum per year, to be honest with you. That's where my head's at, but
honestly, I think you mentioned a great point there. The only way they're going to get control of this outlandish contract deal going on is if they have like a hard cap, like Major League Baseball does, where you have to pay your players.
That'd be hilarious. They structure the cap. They're like, okay, we're going to give you 25% of the cap.
If you pay anything more,
or not 25%, but then like the cap
tax is
like also takes some big dive next year.
Definitely, the Yankees have definitely just
insider trading shit going on there. Why didn't you tell me they're going to cut the cap in half?
They have not gone over the luxury tax all that much and paid $100 million that they paid in like 2014 or whatever it was. So if there's a way to control it, it's to put these caps out there and penalize the teams that, I mean, not like a solid cap where you're telling these guys you can only do this, but if you're going to go over, you're going to get taxed for it.
Yeah, I think they have something like that in the NBA too. I guess the only thing I see there is, once you go down that, I mean, if there's, that's an interesting point. I wasn't completely thinking about where that could head to, but I would have to think that if the cap turned into something like that, where people would be willing to pay luxury taxes and all that, certain bigger teams and owners, that's Green Bay would be one of the first to hurt with that, even if they have a war chest of cash, because. Or I could be wrong, I had never really thought about it quite that way,
Right. Yeah, so like salaries, we can be extremely competitive.
And I mean, actually, to your point, I mean, we're a small market, size of the population,
for the Giants,
but the appeal
is going to do much better.
The brand
with, media contracts,
probably makes up for that with all other TV stuff, and that's a good point. So it does all.
But even there, I feel like we're pretty competitive. It's just that the weather sucks.
Yep.
The weather sucks, and it's a really small town. Those are the points against us. But like everything else, I feel like the Packers are very competitive.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. As evidenced by today.
Too. Yep.
Yeah, I think more closer to that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have anything.
It's an interesting time because I guess the other question could be, when do you guys think this the extension will be announced? Do you see it happening soon, or do you see it happening going into the year before training camp?
Right?
Yeah. I think what they're going to actually, the next guy who's supposed to sign is Matt Ryan, and I think they're waiting for that. To be honest with you, they were waiting for Cousins, and then when Cousins came out, Aaron Rodgers probably did a fucking happy dance all over the place and said, "Geez, Louise." And then Brian Gutekunst, basically probably went up to the top of his apartment and was contemplating jumping off, but
okay.
But then
the eyes just popped out of my head when you mentioned 90 million guaranteed, no matter what. I mean,
but that Matt Ryan, I mean, he's a hell of a lot better than Cousins. I mean, because think about that. So Cousins gets this is where I'm kind of going. Cousins gets 84, right? 3 years, 84, and that's guaranteed. So Matt Ryan's sitting there waiting. Going, I'm better than that, and I want a similar guarantee. So the next bump could be the 90 million I have there. I mean, Rodgers could be sitting. Oh my God. Woo. Wow. Yeah. 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 Full blown guarantee. That's like baseball contracts, I mean, full blown guaranteed, No matter what, even NBA, where they're literally completely guaranteed contracts.
I
think it's the first one, the Cousins one.
And that's not even an option.
They got to do. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but they got to do something about that in the next CBA. Just the quarterback salary conundrum.
There just is no other plan B.
He has more upside. You know what you're getting with Hundley at this point. Is he going to improve? The improvement could be quite minuscule. But I think with Kaiser, you have a guy who really had a terrible rookie year, and he had
there is a Brett that we have, but it's not far. It's Hundley.
He has an offensive program that really.
I mean, I bet you Hundley's going to come back though. He'll come back into camp. But I mean, do you think he'll have to compete with Kaiser? I don't. What the hell are they going to do with Kaiser? Because when I found out they traded for Kaiser, I'm like, what? I'm like, what do they got to do with this guy? I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't a pro style offense, that's for sure.
So go ahead. Yeah. No, that's fine. And like the Hundley thing also goes back to, it's like Mike McCarthy and his vaunted QB school and his, go through this, that, the other. And I mean, if that's the graduating class of the 3-year program, shut that sumbitch down.
It was a read option.
Good Lord. And I mean, I wondered, like, did Ted force Hundley on Mike? Because he ran like a spread offense at
Brian Kelly,
a read option offense at UCLA, didn't he?
Right.
Or was it? UCLA.
Very
Hundley, I'm talking about.
Diversified offense, but I think
you wonder, like, did Thompson give him, another square peg round hole, and Mike McCarthy kind of dutifully did the best he could, but in reality, he probably knew if Rodgers goes down, our goose is cooked, and I never had a chance. So, what kind of offense did Kaiser run in college? I have no idea. Son of a bitch! No.
Who's out there, though?
Yeah, Notre Dame. That's right.
There's nobody left. No, he just signed with Detroit. Yeah. No, they're going into this year banking that Rodgers will be there for 16 games.
And what round was he? A second round pick? I think he was a second round pick, wasn't he?
Oh, okay. There you go.
I mean,
yes.
It's not, the floor is pretty low, when you have to beat out Hundley, but hopefully, they can figure something out there. I still think they got to sign a full-blown veteran, though. Don't you think?
I think he's been as active as he possibly can. They've only had about $30 million after they.
And I mean, these are guys I'm not exactly high on, but I'm like, they're veterans, and Hundley.
Oh, I agree. Even Cameron Meredith, who just signed a offer sheet with New Orleans today, and it was a pretty creative contract where the Bears are going to have.
I will say, Gutekunst has a ton of work to do, no doubt. And I mean, he's not going to really clean up this mess in one offseason. But truth be told, I thought he would do a little bit more, free agency wise so far. But heck, maybe he's doing other things. Who knows? But.
Yeah.
I mean, they could. I look at like Matthews. They could have signed him. He could have signed a couple more players. Let's
do it.
Yeah. Interesting. But I mean, that's how much is Gutekunst going to be Ted, and how much is Gutekunst going to be, we'll say, Ron Wolf or esque, and with it's still early in the game, but I did think they would have made a couple more moves already via free agency, but we'll see. Okay, so upcoming NFL draft going to be held on April 26th to 28th. Maybe we can do a special podcast around there, gentlemen. Don't know.
Depending on who
the good news is the Packers have 12 total draft selections in 2018. I think that includes 4 compensatories, so that's a good amount of picks. And they're going to be picking at their highest point, number 14 overall in the first round.
So I
think it's the highest pick they've had since 2009 when they picked B.J. Raji at number 9 or something like that.
They want.
So they've always been middling in the late 20s, area, mid to late 20s, where it's sometimes it's harder to get an impact player. So, they better not trade out of that. They got to take somebody.
Right.
I saw that they've actually bringing in some blue chippers. Ted never did that.
Well, if they can get, let's say, trade down to like 2021, and they could still get somebody like that Josh Jackson, that defensive back from Iowa, then that's a viable trade because you get positive equity in return with more draft picks, and you get a guy that can.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I would be, because here's the thing: it's like, you don't want to draft for need. You want to draft best player available. They got so many needs. I mean, if a cornerback isn't there, they still desperately need a pass rusher. There's got to be a pass rusher there. Trading up. I could see that potentially. But trading down, I'll be honest with you, I'd be disappointed. Depending on how far they trade down, I guess. But I don't know.
That's the job. Yeah. That's why we're doing this instead of that.
In reality, no, but I think the league is really pushing
it's such
for
a calculated risk because God, you better be damn sure that guy's going to be there. You'd think, but I mean, that's part of the gamesmanship, I suppose.
I don't see why not.
Yeah. So, yeah, no doubt, right? That reminds me, this is a little bit off topic, but just talking about the draft. Do you think it will be possible that they'll bring the NFL draft to Green Bay like Mark Murphy wanted to do? I mean, but it's one thing to say I want it to happen, but you got to have the hotel rooms and all that. And it's, Titletown's part of that kind of marketing package to the league.
I don't know how far away we are from having enough.
In reality, do you think it'll actually happen?
I hear that all the time, like hotel rooms, but it's not like all these other cities are just sitting there with all this vacant hotel space. They have hotels because they're being used.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, that could be somewhat of a crutch. I mean, I imagine it's kind of a combination. It's the weather and it's the smallness and all that. But, you would think that would be pretty. What I'm getting at is that would be pretty darn cool. I mean, we're never going to get a Super Bowl or anything like that. But I mean, to get an event of that caliber would be pretty neat. I just wondered in my mind. I'm like,
from the airport.
Has Murphy come out and said? Maybe that's the question. Has he come out and said specifically? I did the Titletown and I did this to get the draft here. I can't remember if he has said that. Okay. Yeah. That's true. Air travel, I'll tell you that. I've been on 10 planes the past 2 weeks. You want to hear a funny story? This is actually kind of funny. So I have my 8-year-old daughter and, we fly out of Green Bay and I'm like, this is a rinky-dink airport, and it is. And it's very convenient because you don't have to show up hours before and all that. But we flew into Sedona, went to Arizona. or excuse me, we flew into Flagstaff. I apologize, and then we ended up staying in
Yep.
Sedona. So the
I
airport
believe it.
in Flagstaff has one
Flagstaff's about the
gate.
size of Green Bay, or even smaller, right?
One gate, and they weren't flying little puddle jumpers. We had, I mean, they had little, they were the connector planes, if you will, connection planes. But
No,
it was
Flagstaff's only there
one
for the
gate.
Grand Canyon.
I was stunned.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's the capital of Arizona. Phoenix isn't the capital. Flagstaff's the capital of Arizona, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why am I thinking that? Oh, well, that is a dumb story, but it kind of is. I mean, it's higher elevation. There was actually, this is crazy too. When we landed, there was snow, and I was like, I looked out the window when we got in there, and I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, there's snow in Arizona, but yeah. Well, that ended up being a dumb story. Let's move on. One gate, but that is nice when you can just pop right in and out, because I did post on Facebook, actually, the manifestation of anxiety is just, it's a busy airport. Oh my God. It's just,
Yeah. Without the brand
everybody's in the same boat. but
equity,
it's mad.
like you like to talk about, that's what Green Bay would have.
Okay. I stand corrected. It's not a bustling metropolis like I thought. But yeah, one gate. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, we'd be worse than Kenosha. Because we wouldn't even have the proximity to Chicago.
No doubt. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, I hear a lot of people say we'd be Kenosha without the Packers. Oh boy. All right. Now we're really going down the turn, right? So please don't go anywhere, Packers. Please don't up and move to Milwaukee, right?
It's a new philosophy, but I think it's kind of
okay. I did put
smoke and mirrors
Elliot and
philosophy.
I talked about this a few weeks ago. It might have been a couple months ago, and it was right after the new Packers organization.
Can we do this? I just
reporting
think,
structure got announced
as
by Mark
Murphy
Murphy, but I wanted to kind of get Jeremy's opinion on this too. So,
the communicator,
on Twitter, this is funny. I saw somebody they called it the quadrilateral of authority.
Sing kumbaya, blah, blah, blah.
I think it was Michael Rodney. But
I really believe Gutekunst has the authority.
I guess, Jeremy, what is your take on, everybody reports into Murphy, and, you got Russ Ball, who is involved with this, and Mike McCarthy, and Brian Gutekunst, and it just,
graces, and then he would follow
I'm not a fan of it.
So I don't think it's
on the surface, and I just don't quite get it, I guess.
Murphy,
I'm curious your
but
thoughts.
he has a lot of say, because everybody has to come to him to ask. Right. I totally agree with you.
Mm. Yeah, it's, what's interesting when I think about it too, I go, it looks like they're kind of overcompensated for the lack of communication that was there in a way. And I'm going, part of me is going, what the hell was Ted doing that caused them to, or more importantly, what the hell was he not doing? I mean, would they not see him for weeks? And was he not even talking to McCarthy? It's like, wow, it sounds like the communication was beyond non-existent with Ted. And, he was just literally doing whatever the hell he wanted at any given time. And there was no checks and balance. It's very, it reeks of this kind of like, it was so bad, we got to go way over to this side kind of a thing. I don't know. And there were some, I'll say, passive aggressive pot shots that McCarthy took here and there about Ted, and there were rumblings and all that. But they waited too long. I mean, with Ted and all, it should have happened. I don't want to say 6 or 7 years ago or something like that, but it sounds like this should have happened years ago.
Wasn't
plural,
he just
And
Didn't
what
he
they were
just
waiting
sign with
for,
Cleveland when this all came about?
I couldn't tell you. And what's odd
Okay.
is, when this whole thing happened, John Dorsey was sitting on the street. He wasn't the GM for the Browns yet. That was the move, was to hire Dorsey. He was sitting there, and that's obviously that's my opinion. And I wonder why they didn't. I mean, I don't. And the rumor also was that Russ Ball was the leading candidate to be the GM. And Aaron Rodgers came out kind of passive aggressively in the media and said something during that whole thing, and McCarthy did too. And part of me is thinking that Murphy went, "Oh shit, we're going to have to go to a different guy, and we'll go to Gutekunst." Now, again, this is obviously my opinion based on what I'm interpreting, but the play was Dorsey, and I just don't get it. No, he signed after. That's what was weird. He was sitting on the street with nothing. I mean, it happened soon. He signed with Cleveland very, very soon after. It might have been a matter of days, but he was just sitting there. And again, I heard a lot of rumblings that it was supposed to be Russ Ball, and by all indications, it sounds like I was reading through some JS Online stuff and some others that Russ Ball was basically doing the duties of Ted Thompson because he had some health concerns and stuff like that. He was basically doing a lot of Ted's more or less day-to-day type stuff the past 6 months and whatnot. But I mean, look, Russ Ball's a good guy, and he's a bean counter. He's not a scout.
Usually they're on the street by then.
So it's just that, again, there's all these little things that are beneath the surface, and I'm going, this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And maybe to your point, you're right. Maybe this is all, some of it's kind of window dressing. We'll have to let it play out, but it's like 2 + 2 isn't equal 4. It's like 2 + 2 is equal 5. It's just kind of strange. And I'll go back to this, and I've said this to both of you, I think. McCarthy shits the bed last year. The team is horrible.
Right.
The quarterback school is a failure with Brett Hundley and Tom Capers. He couldn't even get 11 guys on the field half the time. And he managed to fail his way upward. He came out of this with more authority, basically. Not a ton, but more say. He has like personnel. That is odd. I don't get that either. It strikes a weird power play. Now he got that, I'll call it that token one year extension because he didn't want to be a lame duck. But when have you ever seen a head coach go through that and basically come out better? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I mean, maybe Mike can turn it around. And I mean, he's obviously coming out and being more vocal.
Yeah,
but,
right.
He came out, like I said, he came out of it with almost more play. He's got a say in personnel now. What do you want to have the coach have some say in personnel? Well, sure, but maybe not after a 7-9 season where your team looks like the Benny Hill theme.
I get my fill talking about cronyism.
Just odd. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, or if it's just, it's kind of like cronyism, it's like businesses and stuff like that. And even politics in a minute, Nah. Yeah. No, I don't blame you. And it's like an onion, though. You peel back some of these other layers, you're like, that doesn't really make sense. That's kind of odd. What's going on here?
Radically improve this
maybe
year.
there's just, making too much of what's there. And it is so new. It's not like this has been going on. They've had this new structure in place for 8 seasons or something. We yet to see it play out. If they go to the Super Bowl, they're damn geniuses, aren't they?
John Schneider.
Yeah, this is, like I said, I kind of see this offseason and going into the season. They did a lot of shakeup as a sales pitch to Rodgers in preparation for his contract extension. I think they want to have some negotiating there to say, we don't want to give you $40 million a year. We're actually going to spend some of this money. Can you give us a little whatever here? And he wants to see some reciprocating, that they're spending it there too. Silence. But also, it's gotten stale, obviously. McCarthy's been there for a long time, and so it is a very interesting crux that they're at. I have kind of a side note here. They lost, John Dorsey took Elliott Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith when he went to the Browns. And those were scouts, high-level scouts, or personnel people with the Packers. So I called it here, I'm using air quotes. There was a brain drain, in the personnel department that happened, around the time right after the Super Bowl, where John Schneider left, Reggie McKenzie left, and am I missing somebody else? Those were the 2 big ones. Schneider and Dorsey. What am I saying? John Dorsey, Schneider, and Reggie McKenzie all left in basically either in the same year or successive years, and they were never really replaced. And they had a great eye for talent. They found, they were responsible for scouting all of those guys in those good drafts and led up to the Super Bowl. They weren't replaced, and now Elliott Wolf leaves and Alonzo Highsmith leaves. They haven't been replaced. Who the hell's in their scouting department now?
Maybe that comes next year.
Look, the tenor of this whole podcast, it's like the sad trombone came out. But I'm a little surprised. It's like they need an influx of young outside scouting talent in there, and let's hope Gutekunst does that. We'll have to. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do, but they also, and kind of where I'm going is there's been a brain drain, and there's more of a brain drain, and they need some smart people in there. Gutekunst may be a really smart guy, but he needs help. Basically, and he locked Ted in the office down the hall, so
2 feet down, or another body part,
can't rely on him anymore.
A football move, such as a third step.
Okay, so
reaching or extending for the goal.
To your guys' point, I mean, that may be a year out or whatever, but
the ability to reach,
lots of stuff going on there.
The ability to perform such an
league
act.
news and trends.
So,
all right, this is the last topic I got.
Taken the ground aspect out of it, which is
the catch rule was revisited. The infamous catch rule
in 2010, 11, 12, somewhere around there.
What a crazy abomination of a rule that was. Are you making a football move? I love these real detailed terms right there.
With the ball,
or is it jostling in there when you do that? You like to think common sense applies, and I don't know all the ins and outs of what they did to the catch rule per se. Jeremy, I don't know if you have any other insights in here, but basically, what it comes down to is the Dez catch that they called from the Packer playoff game a few years ago would be a catch now, which is fine. But it sounds like they didn't fix it. They just put a Band-Aid on this rule.
The end zone. That would be a catch now because the ground will not cause it to be incomplete now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You would lose your mind, Elliot, if you go on NFL's website right now and read the rule. It's pages long.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I got you. So if you maintain possession of it, if you will, but the ball hits the ground and it jostles a little bit, but as long as you have possession, it should be a catch. Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is if you hit the ground and it moves a little bit, but you still have possession of it,
a lot of controversy was
I think some of that stuff should just be
and containing
just thrown out,
maintaining control all the way through the catch.
It's too complicated.
It's
too complicated. When I look at a catch,
gotcha.
And
that makes sense. But it's funny how, like you said, you got to have the football move and you got to have this, and it's like we're talking about football here. This isn't quantum mechanics, is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And then we're back to square one.
Right. I would be willing to bet somebody with a law degree was involved in that.
Yeah. I mean,
there you go.
It's nuts. It's freaking legalese. That's all you want is it's like lawyers getting in there and trying to describe football moves. Yep. No doubt. So I mean, maybe it'll be a little bit better, but from what I saw, it didn't jump the chasm to where it needed to be. It just kind of it moved a little, so to speak.
What about leading with the helmet?
Okay, so there's a new rule that got instituted where it's basically, it's trying to help player safety and whatnot, and it's to get rid of some of these, really bad, vicious hits where it's akin to like targeting in college where you're going after a guy with the crown of your helmet. I kind of put a note here that on the surface, this is football, and it's played so fast with these elite athletes at the NFL level that, where it may appear a guy is leading with his helmet to hit another guy, if an offensive player moves even a little bit, angles can change and intent can almost look like a change, when in reality, these guys are just trying to play football. So I don't know, again, it's a violent game.
Yes.
And they're trying to take the vicious elements of football away from football, but in reality, it's a vicious sport. So I don't know. And I've heard rumors out there that they may be close to eliminating kickoffs. I don't know.
Yes. This year is going to be the last year. If they don't cut down, I don't know what percentage of injuries on the kickoffs,
this
could
insane.
be the last year that they have it.
I'm going to call it. It's not like I'm going to just stop watching. I'm not going to be one of those get off my lawn guys that would do that, but that is insane.
Right. And I would even go down the road of, and I'm sure this is going to be controversial amongst Packer fans, but the Devontae Adams hit where Trevathan hit him. As Adams was going down,
he kind of crunched up. Yeah.
Right. So his natural reaction was he had 2 or 3 guys on him, and obviously he's going to go to the ground. And Trevathan was coming already, not really pointing his head, but by the time Adams came down, their heads were just in perfect synchrony. Yeah,
I hear you. And like I said, it's one of those things. It's happening so fast in real time too. What we're watching on TV, it looks in real live action right there. It is so fast.
No question.
So I mean, the NFL, I got to think on some level is afraid someone's going to die on the field, which I can't blame them for that, because these guys, I mean, they're so strong, they're so jacked up, and I mean, it's so fast. I understand that, but again, this is football. This is not patty cake.
Right.
That said, though, what's the downside? They're going to occasionally call somebody who didn't intend to do it, but did it. It is for player safety. I don't know. I think it's fine.
Part of me, I mean, I get some of it. Like I said, I'm not for these egregious hits. The blindside one to Adams last year where he got a second concussion, that was ridiculous. Those are bad hits. But I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit.
I think you hit it on the head, Andy, that these guys are so quick. And these referees have to read this play so quickly, whether they're going to diagnose it as a penalty or not. It's going to happen.
Did you literally just say you hit it on the head, Andy?
I didn't know. Jeremy did. You hit it on the crown of your helmet, Andy.
I let into that one, didn't I?
Actually, what I was gonna say, there is, they keep making all these rules to benefit the offense. Throw the defense a bone somewhere. My God. One rule they were talking about bringing back, actually, I think it failed, but they were talking about doing a spot foul, or no, just a straight up foul, 15-yard for pass interference. I wouldn't mind, because you did that in college. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I really wouldn't, because the freaking defense, you could just chuck a ball up there 80 yards, and if a guy gets anywhere near it, give the defense something,
I don't disagree with that. I think giving a little bit on that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know. That may happen at some point. I'm thinking, maybe they tried to bring it up, but I just want the defense to get something. They've just been eroded and eroded and eroded year after year after year, and it's so hard for defenders to play the game.
They can't tackle correctly. They can't do anything correctly nowadays.
So
they can't put hands on anybody.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, what's interesting too? I'd be willing to bet that fundamentals are getting pretty poor in the league, as we can tell. Some of that could be from some of these rule changes. Some of it's just probably from other things, but some of it's from rule changes where these players are trying to do something else to not get fined, to not get penalized.
Yeah. Even if it's half the time. Why didn't you make that tackle? Why don't you have fundamentals down? I think half the time.
Well, I mean, we can go back to the Viking game last year against the Saints, the miracle play.
Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
So what was
he was afraid to crunch that guy. He was going to crunch him.
He did. Oh, that was a rookie too.
Man, I felt bad for that guy. I'm not gonna lie. Jesus. Yeah.
Hey, so that wraps it up.
Hey.
Wraps it up, baby. Hey there.
what I mentioned to you guys off air is I would like you to blog. So on absolutepacker.com, if you could put out some blog posts over the next week or so, that would be awesome. What do you guys think?
Nice. I'm good with that. I haven't blogged in a while, but I could definitely get back into it for sure.
You put so much stuff into Facebook, and with all the recent backlash against Facebook, why are we putting this stuff on Facebook when it should be part of what we're doing? Well, you know, I mean, yeah. And that sounds sort of, weaselly, but I mean, why make people that want to engage with us or just be involved in Packer stuff? Why make them join Facebook if they don't want to?
Point.
No, that's fair. I hadn't even thought of it at that point.
You know, I've become a big believer in Facebook over the last couple of years, but in some ways, some of that's run its course, and I think it's time for a little course correction. So anyway, let's give it a try.
Nice. Well said.
We want to urge everybody who is a listener, if you're getting this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, even if you really don't want to subscribe, because that helps people find it. Of course, you can subscribe on iTunes and all sorts of other places as well.
I think we're good. That summed it up very nicely.
Thanks for joining us, Jeremy. I can't wait for next time, now that I have an idea of what to expect.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I'm your biggest fan.
I'm like in high school again.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. I talked about the quadrilateral. I talked about the quadrilateral of authority. We have the triangle of authority now. Very nice.
Sure.
No, it's cool. I mean, all kidding aside, I think it's great to have, more contributors that add value and are passionate about it.
Podcast.
Chair.
I know, right?